A life-interrupted introduction to Amadou Diallo. Amadou Diallo, a 23-year-old immigrant from Guinea, arrived in New York City in 1996. He joined his cousin and other relatives, seeking opportunity and a better life. Diallo, described as a devout Muslim and hardworking young man, aspired to gain an education. He worked as a street vendor in Manhattan, selling videotapes and gloves. Amadou Diallo was a son, a brother, and a friend. Unknown to the world, but cherished by those who knew him. He was, by all accounts, an ordinary young man with dreams and aspirations. Born in Guinea, a country in West Africa, Amadou grew up in a close-knit family. His parents instilled in him the values of hard work, education, and faith. As a child, he was known for his curiosity and kindness, always eager to learn and help others. The decision to move to New York was not an easy one. It meant leaving behind the familiar comforts of home and venturing into the unknown. But Amadou was determined. He saw New York as a land of endless possibilities, a place where he could build a future for himself and support his family back home. In the bustling streets of Manhattan, he found a community of fellow immigrants who shared his dreams and struggles. His faith remained a cornerstone of his life. He regularly attended the local mosque and was an active member of his community. Despite the long hours he spent working as a street vendor, Amadou never gave up on his education. He took night classes, hoping to one day earn a degree. Every dollar he earned was carefully saved, with a portion sent back to his family in Guinea. He was their hope, their bridge to a better future. Those who knew him remember his infectious smile and unwavering optimism. He had a way of lifting the spirits of those around him. Amadou's dreams were simple yet profound. He wanted to make a difference, to be someone his family and community could be proud of. His life, though tragically cut short, continues to inspire and remind us of the countless untold stories of immigrants who come to America seeking a better life. Amadou Diallo's story is a testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit. It is a story that deserves to be remembered and honored. The Bronx backdrop setting the scene. The incident occurred in the Soundview neighborhood of the Bronx, New York City. It was a predominantly minority community facing socioeconomic challenges. The relationship between the police and the community was strained, marked by mistrust and allegations of racial profiling. The Bronx, in the collective imagination, often represents urban struggle, poverty, and crime. It was in this context that Amadou Diallo's path tragically intersected with the New York Police Department. February 3, 1999. An ordinary evening unfolds. On February 3, 1999, Amadou Diallo returned home after a long day of work. He stopped to purchase some food and then went to his apartment building on Wheeler Avenue. Unaware of the tragedy that awaited him, Diallo went about his usual evening routine. He was simply a young man, tired from work, returning to the solace of his home. A fateful encounter. The police confrontation on Wheeler Avenue. 4 plainclothes police officers, part of the street crime unit, were patrolling the area. They approached Diallo as he stood in the vestibule of his building. The officers, in plain clothes, claimed to have mistaken Diallo for a rape suspect they were seeking. The encounter, shrouded in darkness and confusion, escalated rapidly. What began as a routine patrol would soon transform into a tragedy. Section 541. Shots, the tragic death of Amadou Diallo. In a matter of seconds, the encounter turned deadly. The officers fired 41 shots at Diallo, striking him 19 times. He was unarmed and posed no threat to the officers. The hail of bullets cut Diallo down, ending his life on the steps of his own home. The sheer number of shots fired shocked the conscience of the city and the nation. It raised serious questions about police training, racial bias, and the use of deadly force. Section 6. Outrage and grief. Immediate reactions and public outcry. The shooting of Amadou Diallo sparked immediate outrage and grief in the Bronx community and beyond. Protests erupted across New York City, with people demanding justice for Diallo and condemning police brutality. The incident ignited a national debate on race, police violence, and the criminal justice system. The name Amadou Diallo became synonymous with the fight against racial profiling and excessive use of force by law enforcement. Section 7. The trial and its aftermath. Seeking justice for Amadou. The tragic case of Amadou Diallo, a young immigrant from Guinea, who was shot and killed by 4 New York City police officers, sparked a national outcry and a demand for justice. This chapter delves into the trial that followed and the profound impact it had on the community and the nation as a whole. The 4 officers involved in the shooting were indicted by a grand jury and faced trial in Albany, New York. The decision to move the trial from the Bronx, where the incident occurred, to Albany was controversial. It was argued that the intense media scrutiny and public opinion in the Bronx would make it impossible to have a fair trial. The trial, moved from the Bronx due to intense media scrutiny, captivated the nation. Every detail of the proceedings was followed closely by the public, with many hoping for a conviction that would bring some measure of justice for Amadou Diallo. The courtroom was filled with tension as both sides presented their arguments. The officers argued they had acted in self-defense, believing Diallo was reaching for a gun. They testified that in the dimly lit vestibule of Diallo's apartment building, they mistook his wallet for a firearm. This claim was central to their defense, as they sought to justify the 41 shots fired at the unarmed man. The jury acquitted the officers on all charges, a verdict that further fueled public anger and protests. The decision was seen by many as a failure of the justice system to hold law enforcement accountable for the use of excessive force, especially against people of color. The acquittal led to widespread demonstrations and calls for systemic change. The verdict was met with disbelief and outrage by many, who saw it as a miscarriage of justice. The community's pain was palpable, as people took to the streets to express their frustration and demand accountability. The case became a symbol of the broader issues of racial profiling and police brutality. It underscored the deep racial divisions and the lack of accountability for police misconduct. The trial and its aftermath highlighted the urgent need for reform in the criminal justice system. It brought to light the systemic issues that allowed such incidents to occur and go unpunished. The case of Amadou Diallo remains a poignant reminder of the ongoing struggle for justice and equality in America. Section 8. A city divided, racial tensions and police brutality in focus. The Amadou Diallo shooting exposed the deep racial tensions and mistrust between law enforcement and communities of color. It highlighted the issue of racial profiling, where individuals are targeted based on their race or ethnicity, rather than on any evidence of wrongdoing. The incident became a symbol of the systemic racism that permeated American society, particularly within the criminal justice system. Section 9. Diallo's legacy, lasting impact, and calls for reform. The tragic death of Amadou Diallo left an indelible mark on New York City and the nation. His story is one that resonates deeply with communities across the country, highlighting the urgent need for change in how law enforcement interacts with the public, particularly communities of color. It spurred calls for police reform, including better training, stricter use of force policies, and greater accountability for police misconduct. The incident became a catalyst for a broader conversation about the role of police in society and the systemic issues that contribute to such tragedies. Advocates pushed for comprehensive changes, emphasizing the importance of de-escalation tactics and community policing as essential components of a reformed police force. The incident also inspired artists, activists, and policymakers to address issues of race, policing, and social justice. Murals and memorials were created in Diallo's honor, serving as powerful visual reminders of the need for ongoing vigilance and activism. These artistic expressions became rallying points for communities, fostering a sense of solidarity and shared purpose in the fight for justice. Diallo's name continues to be invoked in the ongoing struggle for racial equality and an end to police brutality. His story is often cited in discussions about the need for systemic change, and his legacy lives on through the efforts of those who continue to advocate for a more just and equitable society. The movement for police reform has grown, encompassing a wide range of issues from body cameras to independent oversight of police departments. His story serves as a reminder of the human cost of systemic racism and the urgent need for reform. It underscores the importance of addressing the root causes of inequality and injustice, and the need for sustained efforts to create a society where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. The legacy of Amadou Diallo is a call to action, urging us to continue the work of building a more just and equitable world for all. Section 10. Remembering Amadou. A life cut short, a legacy of change. Amadou Diallo's life was tragically cut short, but his story continues to resonate powerfully. He has become a symbol of the fight against police